Here are the top 10 Sega Saturn games of all time, according to fans of the Saturn. Number 10 is Radiant Silvergun. This one bucks the trends of shoot-'em-ups before it. There are no power-up icons to collect and no bombs that take out everything on the screen. You have all the weapons from the beginning. There's 6 of them that shoot, and the more you use them, the more powerful they become. They also give you a sword. People like the uniqueness and the fact that it's visually stunning and just fun to play. Until Silvergun got a re-release in 2011, it was a Japanese exclusive that only sold 50,000 copies. The combination of it being fun and rare made it a very expensive game over a long period of time. Number 9 is Street Fighter Alpha 2, also known as Street Fighter Zero 2 in certain areas of the world. The Alpha series is a prequel to the Street Fighter 2 series, and it incorporates characters from a few other Capcom games. Fans say that Alpha 2 is a big improvement over Alpha 1 because they've added more characters and they have improved the combo system and the graphics, especially the graphics of the backgrounds. This game was in the arcades first, but it was ported over to the Saturn without losing much of anything. It came to the PlayStation as well, but most people consider the Saturn port to be superior. In case you are wondering, here's how I came up with this list. I went to the internet and looked at places where retro gamers were having conversations. I looked at message boards, websites, videos, video comment sections, and I was looking for personal top 10 lists of favorite Saturn games. I recorded them, applied a point system, and totaled them up. After about 5 hours of doing that, I ended up collecting lists from 110 people. And what you're seeing today is the ranked result. My own feelings did not factor into any of it. This video is simply showing the combined opinion of those 110 people. It's not going to be a list that everyone agrees with, but it is a good list to start off with if you are new to the Saturn. Number 8 is Shining Force 3. In Japan, this game was released in 3 parts called Scenarios. In America, only the first scenario got released, and they just called it Shining Force 3. Regardless, that one part is more than enough to have a wonderful experience. Shining Force 1 and 2 came out on the Genesis, and they were both featured in my Sega Genesis Top 10 list video. The developers knew they had a good formula for those first 2 games, so they didn't change much to it for Shining Force 3. All 3 of those games are considered easily approachable turn-based RPGs, where you form a team to fight battles, and the members who fight those battles get stronger and can do more things, like rank up or cast more spells. Number 7 is Guardian Heroes. This is a beat-em-up like no other. There is a front, middle, and back plane that you can jump between. This opens up a lot of strategy when it comes to dodging and circling around your foes. There's also RPG elements, as every once in a while it lets you distribute points to various attributes. It's also very heavy on the story, and it gives you decisions to make throughout that story, and those affect what stages you end up playing through. So after beating the game, you can play through it again, make different decisions, see different stages, and also see a different ending. What tops it off is the fact that they used 2D sprites, a lot of them, during a time when the industry was pushing for 3D polygons. It gives the game a very unique look. Number 6 is Fighters Mega Mix. It's astonishing what the developers did here. They combined 2 tremendously good games, Virtua Fighter 2 and Fighting Vipers, and mixed the 2 fighting styles together. They even added some moves from Virtua Fighter 3. You can play as any of the fighters from those 2 games and work to unlock 10 more, some of which are silly and from other Sega games. It ends up totaling 32 fighters, and each of those has their own arena to fight in. People like the variety, the silliness, and how well it plays. Number 5 is Congo. I'm just kidding, that's not actually number 5. That might make a different list in the future. Number 5 is actually Virtua Fighter 2. So you may be wondering, how does this game rank higher than Fighter's Megamix if Megamix already incorporates this game and adds more? It may come down to exposure. It's very likely more Saturn owners have played Virtua Fighter 2 because it sold a lot for a Saturn game and was for some time included with the Sega Saturn. There are other key things to consider. Virtua Fighter 2 was an incredible looking game back in 1995, running on the Saturn's highest resolution mode. When Virtua Fighter 2 was incorporated into Fighter's Megamix, they had to make some graphical sacrifices, including a reduction in the resolution. They also removed the ability to knock the opponent out of the arena. There are some who just simply prefer the more balanced fighting engine in Virtua Fighter 2 over the one in Megamix. In the end, it may be worth owning both games.
I don't make it a habit to fight the elderly.
Number 4 is Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. When Sega makes a second game in a series, it almost always ends up being better than the first one, and that's because they make great effort to improve the graphics, the music, the gameplay, and they also add cool new mechanics. Think Sonic 2, Streets of Rage 2, Shining Force 2. You can also add Panzer Dragoon 2 to that list. The core mechanic, where you're able to turn in 4 directions and lock onto things, is just as sound as the original. This time though, you start off on a weak dragon, and it evolves as you play. The better you play, the more it evolves. There's also branching stages, which incentivizes multiple playthroughs. Number 3 is Sega Rally Championship. When this arcade port came to the Saturn in 1997, people were stunned by how good it looked and how well it played. There are several modes, including Time Attack, 2-player split screen, and a championship mode, which you can beat to get the game's ending. There's 2 cars to choose from the start, and they handle differently. A third car is unlockable. At its heart, it's still an arcade game, so the championship mode can be beaten in about 15 minutes. It's a very physics-centered game. You'll need to master how the car handles on the various terrains, and you'll need to perfect the art of taking the turns without losing much speed. Before we get to 2 and 1, I want to do some honorable mentions. I'm just going to read these off and not describe them, and these are in no particular order. Dragon Force. Die Hard Arcade, also known as Dynamite Deca. Daytona USA.
You're looking good.
Saturn Bomberman. Burning Rangers. Panzer Dragoon, the first one. X-Men vs. Street Fighter. And finally, Shining the Holy Ark. Number 2 is Panzer Dragoon Saga. In Japan, this is known as EZEL, Panzer Dragoon RPG. Since this came out so late in the Saturn's lifespan, they didn't make that many copies of the North American version. So for years, it has sold on eBay for about $1,000. Luckily for this countdown, my friend Saru loaned me a copy. So basically, the developers took the world in which the first 2 Panzer games take place in, and they fleshed it out and made an adventure out of it. One that takes place over 4 different discs. In parts of it, you are walking around on foot, in others, you are exploring on your dragon, and in others, you are engaged in tactical battles against enemies you randomly encountered. So why do people like this game? Well, what comes up again and again in conversations is how different this game is from other RPGs out there. That's the main takeaway here. Number 1 is Nights into Dreams. You are dreaming, of course, and your immediate goal is to collect the blue orbs that are everywhere. Doing that unlocks another section of the stage, and after a few sections, you battle a boss. The secondary goal is to get as many points as possible in the smallest amount of time possible. It gives you a letter grade based on that for each section. All the flying takes place on a 2D plane, but the way the scenery shifts around, it makes it feel as if you're flying in a 3D space. There's buttons for acrobatic moves and for dashing. There are a lot of pluses here. First of all, it's pretty much a perfect marriage of 2D and 3D graphics. When it comes to atmosphere, this game exudes happiness from its graphical style and its music. Anyone in a bad mood should play this game. There's also a sense of freedom when you're flying around and flying super fast. Doing all the acrobatic moves and flying through the loops is especially fun. In the end, Nights exemplifies everything that's great about playing the Sega Saturn. I hope you enjoyed this top 10 list. I have a ton of others on this channel for a lot of different systems. Thank you for watching and have a great day.